learned to fly too. Him and Arya and Sansa, even baby Rickon and Jon Snow. We could all be ravens and live in Maester Luwin's rookery. That was just another silly dream, though. Some days Bran wondered if all of this wasn't just some dream. Maybe he had fallen asleep out in the snows and dreamed himself a safe, warm place. You have to wait, he would tell himself. You have to wait right now, or you'll snooze and dream himself a safe, warm place. You have to wait really hard to tell himself. The only thing that did was make it right now, or you'll snooze and dream himself a safe, warm place. You have to wait now, there's the only thing that did was make it right now, or you'll snooze and dream himself a safe place. Became dreams. Things happened all at once or not at all. He had done that or only dreamed it. Only one man in 1,000 is born a skin changer, Lord Brendan said one day, after Bran had learned to fly, and only one skin changer in 1,000 can be a grain seer. I thought the grain seers were the wizards of the children, Bran said. The singers, I mean, in a sense. Those you call the children of the forest have eyes as golden as the sun. But once in a great while, one is born amongst them with eyes as red as blood, or green as the moss on a tree in the heart of the forest. By these signs do the gods mark those they have chosen to receive the gift. The chosen ones are not robust, and their quick years upon the earth are few, for every song must have its balance. But once inside the wood they linger long indeed, 1,000 eyes, 100 skins, wisdom deep as the roots of ancient trees. Grain seers. Bran did not understand, so he asked the reeds, "Do you like to read books, Bran?" Jojen asked him. "Some books. I like the fighting stories. My sister Sansa liked the kissing stories, but those are stupid. A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies," said Jojen. "The man who never reads lives only one." The singers of the forest had no books, no ink, no parchment, no written language. Instead, they had the trees, and the werewoods above all. When they died, they went into the wood, into leaf and limb and root, and the trees remembered. All their songs and spells, their histories and prayers, everything they knew about this world. It's the root that the werewolves are sacred to the old. All their songs and spells, their histories and prayers, everything they become.
I got first.
Eyes widened.
We
"You gonna kill me?" "No," Mira said, joking, for scaring him. "He is not the one who needs to be afraid." The moon was fat and cold. Out through the silent woods, a long gray shadow that grew more gone with every hunt, for living game could not be found. The ward upon the cave mouth still held. The dead men could not enter. The snows had buried most of them again, but they were still there, hidden, frozen, waiting. Other dead things came to join them, things that had once been men and women, even children. Dead ravens sat on bare, brown branches, wings crusted with ice. A snow bear crashed through the brush, huge and skeletal, half its head swapped away to reveal the skull beneath. Summer and its cat fell upon it and tore it into pieces. Afterwards, they gorged, for the meat was rotten and half frozen, and moved even as they ate it. Under the hill, they still had food to eat. 100 kinds of mushrooms grew down here. Flying white fish swam in the Black River, but they tasted just as good as fish with eyes once you cooked them up. They had cheese and milk from the goats that shared the caves with the singers. Even some oats and barley corn and dried fruit laid by during the long summer. And almost every day they ate blood stew, thickened with barley and onions and chunks of meat. Jojen thought it might be squirrel meat, and Mira said that it was rat. Bran did not care. It was meat and it was good. The stewing made it tender. The caves were timeless, vast, silent. They were home to more than 300 living singers and the bones of thousands dead, and extended far below the hollow hill. Men should not go wandering in this place, Leaf warned them. The river you hear is swift and black, and flows down and down to a sunless sea. There are passages that go even deeper, bottomless pits and sunken shafts, forgotten ways that lead to the very center of the earth. Even my people have not explored them all. We have lived here for 1,000 of your man years. Though the men of the Seven Kingdoms might call the children of the forest, Leaf and her people were far from children. Little wise men of the forest were coming closer. All American men, as the wolf is smaller than a duck. But that does not mean it's funny. Had nut brown skin, dappled like a deer's with yellow spots, and large ears that could hear things that no man could hear. Their eyes were big too, great golden cat's eyes that could see down passages where a boy's eyes saw only blackness. Their hands had only 3 fingers and a thumb, with sharp black claws instead of hands. sing. They sang in flute. The brain could not understand the words, but their voices were as pure as winter air. Where are the rest of you? Bran asked Leaf once. Gone down into the earth, she answered, into the stones, into the trees. Before the first men came, all this land that you call Westeros was home to us. Yet even in those days, we were few. The gods gave us long lives, but not great numbers. Lest we overrun the world as deer, we'll overrun a wood where there are no wolves to hunt them. That was in the dawn of days, when our sun was rising. Now it sinks, and this is our long dwindling. The time is almost run as well. They who were our bane and our brothers. The great lions of the western hills have been slain. The unicorns are all but gone. The dire wolves will outlast us all, but their time will come now. In the world that men have made, there is no room for them or us. She seemed sad when she said it, and that made Bran sad as well. It was only later that he thought men would not be sad, men would be wroth, men would hate and swear a bloody vengeance. The singer sang sad songs where men would fight and kill. Mira and Jojen decided to go see the river, despite Leaf's cautions. I want to come too, Bran said. Mira gave him a mournful look. The river was 600 feet below, down steep slopes and twisting passages, she explained, and the last part required climbing down a rope. Hodor could never make the climb with you on his back. I'm sorry, Bran. Bran remembered a time when no one could climb as good as him, not even Robert or John. Part of him wanted to shout at him for leaving him, and another part wanted to cry. He was almost a man grown, though, so he said nothing. But after they were gone, he slipped inside Hodor's skin and followed them. The big stable boy no longer fought him as he had the first time, back in the lake tower during the storm. Like the dog who has had all the fight whipped out of him, Hodor would curl up and hide whenever Bran reached out for him. His hiding place was somewhere deep within him, a pit where not even Bran could touch him. No one wants to hurt you, Hodor, he said silently to the child man whose flesh he'd taken. I just want to be strong again for a while. I'll give it back, the way I always do. No one ever knew when he was wearing Hodor's skin. Bran only had to smile, do as he was told, and mutter Hodor from time to time. And he could follow Mira and Jojen, grinning happily, without anyone suspecting it was really him. He often tagged along, whether he was wanted or not. In the end, the Reeds were glad he came. Jojen made it down the road easily enough. But after Mira caught a blind white fish with her frog spear, and it was time to climb back up, his arms began to tremble, and he could not make it to the top. So they had to tie the rope around him and let Hodor haul him up. Hodor, he grunted every time he gave a pull. Hodor, Hodor, Hodor. The moon was a crescent, thin and sharp as the blade of a knife. Summer dug up a severed arm, black and covered with hoarfrost. Its fingers opening, across the frozen snow. There was still enough meat on it to fill his empty belly, and after that was done, he cracked the arm bones for the marrow. Only then did the arm remember it was dead. Bran ate with summer in his back, as a wolf. As a raven, he flew with the murder, circling the hill at sunset, watching for foes, feeling the icy touch of the air. As Hodor, he explored the caves. He found chambers full of bones, shafts that plunged deep into the earth, a place where the skeletons of gigantic bats hung upside down from the ceiling. He even crossed the slender stone bridge that arched over the abyss and discovered more passages and chambers on the far side. One was full of singers, enthroned like Brendan in nests of weirwood roots that wove under and through and around their bodies. Most of them were dead to him. As he crossed in front of them, their eyes would open and follow the light of his torch. And one of them opened and closed a wrinkled mouth, as if he were trying to speak. Hodor, Bran said to him, and he felt the real Hodor stir down in his pit. Seated on his throne of roots in the great cavern, half corpse and half tree, Lord Brendan seemed less a man than some ghastly statue made of twisted wood, old bone, and rotten wool. The only thing that looked alive in the pale ruin that was his face was his one red eye, burning like the last coal in a dead fire, surrounded by twisted roots and tatters of leathery white skin hanging off a yellow skull. The sight of him still frightened Bran, the werewood roots snaking in and out of his withered flesh, the mushrooms sprouting from his cheeks, the white wooden worm that grew from the socket where one eye had been. He liked it better when the torches were put out. In the dark, he pretended it was the three-eyed crow who whispered to him, some grisly talking corpse. One day I will be like him. The thought filled Bran with bread. Enough that he was broken with his useless legs. Was he doomed to lose the rest too? To spend all of his years with the werewood growing in him and through him? Lord Brendan drew his life from the tree, he told them. He did not eat, he did not drink, he slept, he drank, he watched. I was going to be a knight, Ray remembered. I used to run and climb and fight. It seemed 1,000 years ago. What was he now? Only Bran the broken boy, Brandon of House Stark, prince of a lost kingdom, lord of a burned castle, heir to the ruins. He had brought the three-armed crow with be a sorcerer, a wise old wizard who could fix his legs. But that was some stupid child's dream, he realized now. I'm too old for such fancies, he told himself. 1,000 eyes, 100 skins, wisdom deep as the roots of ancient trees. That was as good as being a knight. Almost as good, anyway. The moon was a black hole in the sky. Outside the cave, the world went on. Outside the cave, the sun rose and set. The moon turned, the cold wind under the hill. Jojen Reed grew even more sullen and solitary. To his sister's distress, she would often sit with Bran beside their little fire, talking where he slept between them, while her brother wandered the caverns by himself. Sometimes when Mandela is expressing all these network problems, he changed his phone over there. Wrapped in furs, yet shivering all the same. He wants to go home, Mira told Bran. He will not even try to fight his fate. He says the raindrops do not lie. He's being brave, said Bran. The only time a man can be brave is when he is afraid, his father had told him once, long ago. One day they found the direwolf caught in the summer snows. He still remembers. I hope that when we found your three-eyed crow, now I wonder why we ever came. Other food hungry, your husband, they pack us in Nigerian money and Mira's voice was bitter. Total. Mira began to cry. Bran needed to be careful then. Don't cry, he said. He put his arms around her. Hold her tightly. His mother was holding him back and when he hurt himself. She was right there, only a few feet from him, so far out of reach it might have been. To touch her, he would need to pull himself along the ground with his hands, dragging his legs behind him. The floor was rough and uneven, and it would be slow going, full of scrapes and bumps. I could put on Hodor's skin, he thought. Hodor could hold her and pat her on the back. The thought made Bran feel strange, but he was still thinking it when Mira bolted from the fire, back out into the darkness of the tunnels. He heard her steps recede until there was nothing but the voices of the singers. The moon was a crescent, then it sharpened the look of the night. The days marched past, one after the other, each shorter than the one before. The nights grew longer. No sunlight ever reached the caves beneath the hill. No moonlight ever touched those stony halls. Even the stars were strangers there. Those things belonged to the world above, where time ran in its iron circles. And at night, today, tonight, today, it is time, Lord Brendan said. Something in his voice and lazy fingers running Brian's back. Time for what? For the next step. For you to go beyond skin changing and learn what it means to be a great seer. The trees will teach them, said Leaf. She beckoned. Another one of the singers padded forward. The one-haired one that Mira had named Snowy Box. She had a weirwood bowl in her hands, carved with a dozen faces, like the ones the Heartbreak wore. Inside was a white case, thick and heavy, with dark red veins running through it. "Just eat this," said Leif. She handed Bran a wooden spoon. Something about the look of it made Bran and veins were hard and sad, but it unfortunately made him walk. He dipped the spoon into the paste, then hesitated. "Will this make me a gracier? You're a lot makes you a gracier," said Lord Brendan. "This will help you awaken your gifts and wed you to the trees." Bran did not want to be married to the tree. But who else would wed a broken boy like him? 1,000 eyes, 100 skins, ancient trees, a gracier. It had a bitter taste, but not so bitter as acorn paste. The first spoonful was the hardest to get down. He almost stretched it right back up. The second tasted better. The third was almost sweet. The rest he spooned up eagerly. Why he thought that it was bitter? It tasted of honey, of new fallen snow, of pepper and cinnamon in the last kiss his mother ever gave him. The empty bowl slipped from his fingers and clattered on the carpet. "I don't feel any different. What happens next?" Touching his hand, the trees will each. He raised a hand, and the other singers began to move about the cavern, extinguishing their torches one by one. The darkness thickened and crept forward. Close your eyes so that we have Christ. As you enjoy the summer. Next time, go into the woods instead. Follow them up through the earth to the trees upon the hill. Tell what you see. Brian closed his eyes and slipped free of his hand into the woods, into the earth. Becomes a tree. For an instant, he could see the cattle hid its white wings. He could hear the river rushing by below. All at once, he was back home again. Lord Edward Stark sat upon the rock beside the deep black pool in the godswood, the pale roots of the heart tree twisting around him like an old man's gnarled arms. The great sword of ice lay across Lord Edward's lap, and he was cleaning the blade with an oilcloth. Winterfell, Brian whispered. His father looked up. Who's there? Asked, turning. Frightened, pulled away. His father in the black pool in the godswood faded and were gone. He was back in the cavern. The pale, thick roots of his werewood grown, cradling his limbs as a mother does a child. The torch flared the light before him. Tell us what you saw. From far away, Leopold promised a girl, no more than Marina sisters. But close at hand, she seemed far older. She claimed to have seen 200 years. Moran's throat was very dry. He swallowed. Wonderful. Saw my father. He's not dead. He's not. I saw him. He's back at Winterfell. He's still alive. No, said he. He is gone. He wants to call him back. I saw him. Brain could feel the rough wood pressing against him. He was cleaning ice. You saw what you wished to see. Your heart yearns for the water in your mouth, so that is what you saw. A man must know how to look before he hurts. Said those were shadows of days. I saw you were looking through the eyes of a heart into your God's wood. Time is different for a tree. Sun and soil and water, these are the things a werewood understands, not days and years and centuries. For men, time is a river. We are trapped in its flow, hurtling from the past to the present, always in the same direction. The lives of trees are different. They root, grow, and die in one place. The river does not move them. The oak is the acorn, the acorn is the oak. And the werewood, 1,000 years are with such gaze, you and I may gaze into the past. But, said Bran, he heard me. He heard a whisper on the way, a rustling amongst the leaves. I speak to him, try as you can. A brother that I loved, a brother that I hated, one that I desired. Through the trees, I see them still, but no word of mine has ever reached them. The past remains the past. We can learn from it, but we cannot change it. Will I see my father again? One chef your gift. You may look where you go and see what the trees have seen. Yesterday, trapped in an eternal present between the mists of memory and the sea of shadow that is all we know of the days to come. Certain moths live their whole lives in a day. And to them that little span must seem as long as years and decades do to us. An oak may live 300 years, a redwood tree 3,000. A werewood will live forever if left undisturbed. To them seasons pass in the flutter of a moth's wing, and past, present, and future are one. Nor will your sight be limited to your God's will. The singers carved eyes into their heart trees to awaken them, and those with the heart's eyes and new rings to your first of youth. When, Brian wanted to know, in a year, or 3, or 10. That I have not glimpsed. It will come in time, I promise you. The trees are calling. We will resume on the morrow. Hodor carried Bran back to his chamber, muttering Hodor in a low voice as Leafland before them on the porch. He had hoped that Mira and Jojen would be there, so he could tell them what he had seen, but their snug alcove in the rock was cold. Hodor eased abruptly down onto his bed, covered it with furs, and made a fire for them. 1,000 eyes, 100 skins. Watching the flames, Bran decided he would stay awake till Mara came back. Jojen would be unhappy. He knew, and Mira would be glad for him. He did not remember Pleasant but then somehow he was back in Winterfell again. The dogs were looking down upon his father. Lord Eddard seemed much younger this time. His hair was brown, and gray, his head bowed. Let them curl up close to the fire. And let my lady wife find it in her heart. Father, Brand's voice.
So we're still recording. Oh,
And our star lifted
20
his head,
minutes.
looked long and cannot speak. He cannot see me, Brand realized, despairing. He wanted to reach out and touch him, but all that he could do was land in the tree, and inside the heart.
This ain't broken. Okay.
So I can't. And our star resumed.
Let's get my down.
Tears.
And my app is sword. Yeah. Before the tree.
The rest of his father's words were drowned out in
It's
some kind of and our star dissolved, mist in the morning sun. Children one another as they joined the branches. The girl was almost eagerly as he wanted to lead them into a long metaphor. That couldn't be right. Aria, and already never that girl slashed the boy across the thigh so hard that his leg went out. Fell into the floor and splashed and shout. You be quiet, stupid, the girl said, tossing her own branch aside. And one old man to hear him run and tell Barbara, she helped. After nothing works, Brand was feeling lost and distant. He saw no more of his father. Emerged naked, dripping from the black pool. Knelt over the old ones for his son. Blonde-haired girl, slender as a spear, who stood on the tips of her toes. Young man called her. What kind of you? Growing smaller with each mission, while the lesser saplings and vanished, only to be replaced by other trees that would dwindle and fade like her. And the fourth brain left were falling. They were going then, as he watched, the bearded man captive down onto his knees before the archery. A white-haired woman stepped toward them, a bronze sickle in her hand. No, said Rand, no, don't. He did not hear him, no more than his father had. The woman grabbed the captive by the hair, hooked the sickle round his throat, and slashed. Through the midst of centuries, the broken boy could only watch as the man's feet drummed against the earth, and as his life flowed out of him in a red tide, and a sharp. Alright, now I know that was a lot to take in. Let's try to deconstruct some of the starts the first thing Bran sees is his father, Lord Eddard Stark, sitting at the heart tree in the God's Wood. This is taking place shortly after Robert's Rebellion. When Ned Stark says, let them grow up as close as brothers, he's talking about Jon Snow and Robb Stark. Ned also hopes that Catelyn can find it in her heart to forgive him, because as we all know, Ned had to lie to Catelyn and tell her he had sex with another woman, which led to the birth of Jon Snow. But if you pay very close attention to the wording during this vision, there is a subtle clue about Jon would actually be Ned's son. If Jon was Ned's son, he would be stepbrothers to Robb, but Ned hopes they grow up as close as brothers. And that's because Ned knows they aren't actually brothers. This is just one of the many pieces to the R plus L equals J puzzle. After the vision of Ned Stark, Moraine starts to see other events in reverse chronological order. They're moving backwards in time. That's why the tree continues to get smaller and smaller. So the first vision is right after Robert's Rebellion, then we gradually work backwards all the way to Winterfell's earliest days. Bran sees his father talking about Jon and Robb, then he sees two kings sword fighting in the Godswood with sticks. At first, Bran thinks he's seeing his sister Arya, but he's actually seeing his uncle Lana and his uncle Benjen when they were still just kids. Now, what Bran sees is a little harder to decipher. A pregnant woman emerges from the Godswood pool, and she prays before the tree for a son to avenge her. This may not be confirmed until another donkey named novella comes out, but this is most likely one of the she-wolves of Winterfell. There are some other theories about who this could be, but I think the one I just stated makes the most sense if you're following the time in reverse chronological order. After that vision, we then see a girl who has to stand on her tippy toes to kiss a knight that is always holding. It sounds like it's old Nan, when she was much younger, of course. Who she is kissing is Dunk, from the Dunk and Egg novellas that I just mentioned. This makes a lot of sense because the knight was as tall as Hodor. We all know Hodor is an old man. So now we see where he gets his size from. So Dunk in the tall. After that, there is a dark-eyed youth who cuts 3 branches off the tree and shapes them into arrows. This is definitely Brandon Snow, who was Torrhen Stark's half-brother. Torrhen Stark is known as the King Who Knelt. He was referenced during Season 7 when Jon Snow met Daenerys Targaryen. Torrhen Stark had actually knelt to Aegon the Conqueror, but the night before he knelt, his brother had plans of sneaking into his camp and killing all 3 of his dragons. That would explain why he 3 branches of the tree and fashioned them into arrows. Now, we're not actually sure if this would have worked, but given how magical the werewolf trees are, I would like to think it would have worked. The next vision is pretty self-explanatory. Bran can see all lords with burned faces and fur and chainmail. He says he recognizes the faces from the crypts of Winterfell. These are most likely some of the old kings of Winter from way back in the day. The final vision Brain has is my favorite one because it's so mysterious and fascinating to me. This is the sacrifice done right under the heart tree by the white-haired woman who has a bronze sickle in her hand. This vision took place thousands of years ago, when the heart tree in Winterfell wasn't quite as big as it is now. There are many different theories about what this vision could mean. Who is the white-haired woman? Who is the captive being forced down onto his knees and then executed? Is this a blood sacrifice to the werewolf tree? Is the white-haired woman the night's queen? One thing is clear: everything that has to do with the old gods is fascinating, but unlocking all their secrets will take a very long time. While some may never be revealed at all. The Stark's history stretches back all the way to the Age of Heroes, and as I've always said, I believe they have a direct connection or even a bond with the others, also known as the White Walkers. Who these people are in the scene might not really matter, but the act of the sacrifice itself may be what's important. Because we all have seen just how powerful a blood sacrifice can be. And this might be one of the very first ones that was ever done in Winterfell or at the Heart Tree itself. I can only hope that we will find out what was the cause and effect of this sacrifice Rand sees during his final vision. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. If you have anything to add, I would certainly love to hear it. Put the comments down below in the comments section. I want to thank all of you for watching the video, especially if you listened until the very end. I appreciate that as always. Also, I want to give a big thanks to everyone on Patreon for continuing to support the channel. Thank you all very much. Have a great day. I will see you soon. Bye.
Oh, I'm not said a word anymore. Oh, this was not all last
The Battle of Winterfell was recently witnessed by millions of diehard gaming fans. The event was the culmination of 55 nights of shooting, resulting in not only the longest episode of the show to date, but the longest consecutive battle sequence put to film. all that chaos, however, there was one character who seemed pretty chill about the whole thing. That character was, of course, Bran. Naturally, this video will have full spoilers for the season 8 episode, The Long Night. Bran has been an interesting character as of late. Dawn is the innocent and curious boy we met back in season 1. In his place is the stoic, carefree, and quiet Bran who prefers the title Three-Eyed Raven these days to his given name. Supernatural powers, Bran can witness the past, present, and future at the same time, while also possessing animals and even people for short periods of time. In other words, he's a pretty powerful individual that no one really seems to get. Despite his curious and mythic powers, Bran had to essentially sit out the Battle of Winterfell that encompassed the entirety of the third episode of Season 8 of Game of Thrones. As established in the previous episode, the Night King was on a single-minded mission of his own to terminate Bran, as he's the memory of the very world the king seeks to destroy.
He'll come for me.
So Bran was used as bait for the duration of the episode, and hung back by the gods within Winterfell with a small contingency of guards led by Theon Greyjoy. While Bran's combat prowess may not have seeking out the Night King. There, the king's characters have been linked to better part of years now. This has caused many fans to believe that Bran is actually the Night King, just from a different point in time. Actually, the Long Night episode proves that this theory was wrong. The more good thing for the theory this time around. Becomes courtesy of Predators and 2 years ago, the pilot. Bran is actually the physical and the body is once again the word. In this video, we're going to analyze Joel Microwave's theory as follows interview. From author Joel Microwave. Many have come to believe that Bran is a great father. The soul of God of night and terror as in the books. Or in other words, the God of darkness has filled people in fear and the faith of R'hllor. Sound familiar? It's almost proof of what monsters are. Or Melisandre explains the story in the 70s. Although the story is nothing more than a fairy tale. There are only 2 gods who are forever at war.
And the God of darkness.
In the books, Melisandre refers to the Great Mother as the Cold Children. With all of this in mind, we can safely assume that the Night King is indeed the Great Other, manifested into the world of the living, personified as the leader of the White Walkers. Wherever he goes, he brings death, cold, and fear with him. He actually summon a will in order to reduce visibility and give his army an end. More importantly, though, he can resurrect all those who are dead in his immediate other than the Three-Eyed Raven. So we leave alone. Let's take a look at the Fire offered to shout far more murder. In 2017, in it, he actually talks about it. Match member of the Brotherhood who finally met his end during the Battle of Winterfell. Tyrion Targaryen was a strong believer in the Lord of Light. Fate was the Lord's chain. Boros, the Red Priest, and the Brotherhood had to regularly bring Beric back to life to fight on. Initially, many of us thought that Beric had simply come back to life through and through, but it revealed that this wasn't the case. Beric isn't a living being. Sparkers, quantity form of thing. Created by fire into the ice. Now we're getting back into the whole fire and ice thing. This is very interesting. Created. So Beric and possibly Jon by association are actually buddies. Just like the light of the Night King's army. But because the power to resurrect came from the passion, blood, and sword, both was able to retain their body. This is why Beric is not brought them to life in the Night King of Lemon, thanks with them. What's more interesting, though, is that Beric was one of the Night King's creating the 20th world. And who was responsible for creating the fire? There are two gods, the mystical entities, everything has an antithesis or opposite. Fire versus ice, good versus evil, light versus dark. They appear to be the form enemy of the Night King. All the irritations the world around him, the Night King always that would be raven. Instead of the Night King. I when the original raven had a but was expelled the Night King that mocked him. So despite there being other tasks at hand, the Night King always seems to fight with places. Like the Night King is the great honor. And this results in constant conflict with each other. Everyone in the Lord of Light is brought back. Derek and John has helped Arya Stark in some way, shape, or form in her mission to fight. Derek was constantly brought back from the dead, and he ultimately passed away from the Lord, brought Arya enough time to escape from the Light. Bran, being the Lord of Light's body, also suffered. He gave Arya the cat's paw dagger, which would ultimately be used to strike the against the Night King. This was the same dagger that was used in Season 1 in an attempt to was offered himself as bait. Deliberate manner. Would have liked to bring back certain individuals. Also led to Arya being the right place at the right time. This means that Bran's power lives the Night Kings should be detected in the Great Other. This means that Bran's also those who died as reanimated ones. He fight in the name of the Lord. Like how Gareth is fighting, Bran could likely only bring back those the Lord of Light needed on the chessboard that is life. So there's basically no chance beyond his coming back to life. But should someone indeed get killed who's important to someone else's quest to save the world, perhaps the Lord of Light should get him to bring back that individual. Then again, the Night King could resurrect thousands of time, so maybe Bran can raise the army of the living. Also, does this mean Bran can summon a fire sword? During the battle when Bran warred with the Ravens, he was completely basically united. He didn't know exactly where he was, which means that if he was manipulating the events of the battle, then he was likely manipulating everything that came past to change the 300 in full. We know Bran has some sort of influence on the past, thanks to his brief interaction with his father at the Tower of Joy. Internet heard him yell out to him, "Father!" Now that Bran is the three-eyed raven in full, he has a more direct influence on time. This means that Bran will set the events of Season 1 and bring the dagger to him from the future. Way that kind of made you. Arya would also never have gotten to the point he was at by the events of the Long Night if it wasn't for the events that transpired in Season 1. Without the assassination attempt on Bran being pinned on Tyrion, she would have never made it to Essos, become trained with the Faceless Men. Such a unique training that she's become one of the most dangerous characters in the realm. Her training was also conditional on Robert Baratheon's death, who died thanks to a wild war, and Bran setting things in motion in the future. So all that war, death, and destruction could be linked back to Bran, or he saw the alternative. When the Night King wins and all of life gets destroyed in the process, he understood that in order to save as many people as possible, only people would die. He put the realm above his personal happiness, which is very similar to Varys' philosophy. With Bran manipulating the present from the future, this means that it's also Bran who is responsible for bringing Eric back from the dead. Both Melisandre and Thoros explained that they shouldn't have the power to bring back the dead, but that the Lord of Light must really want something in order to allow something to be there. In reality, it likely wasn't the priests, but Bran operating at the same time. Having priests around just makes things more convenient for all those around. And as the champion of the Lord of Light, their faith isn't being manipulated as it's still the Lord's work. Melisandre herself gave up when trying to bring John back, and he only was brought up after she had left the room. But it wasn't her magic that brought it back. The final clue actually comes from Varys. The character we said shares a similar philosophy with Bran when it comes to the realm. In the show, Varys recounts to Varys about the time he was cut, and the voice he heard in the morning.
Made a voice call out from the
So it set forth this path that would lead him to Westeros and beyond. After this scene is done, the action cuts back to Bran, heavily implying it was Bran who spoke to Varys when he was a child. The name of this particular episode was The Door, which is the episode where Bran inherits the powers of the Three-Eyed Raven during the Walker's Fall. There's a lot of evidence here to support the theory that Bran could be the Lord of Light's champion, but until Poe comes out and says it, it remains a theory. What do you think? Bran connected in some way, shape, or form to the Lord of Light, or are the Three-Eyed Ravens a separate entity to the Lord in his fiery ways? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in your playlist every day. Thanks for watching. You know what really makes Vegas enemies already agreed. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Song of Ice and Fire Theory video. Today I want to talk about arguably one of the most important scenes in the books, which is found in our world books in the late summer snows. But what I mainly want to talk about today is how Jon Snow found his direwolf ghost. There are a lot of different theories surrounding that scene, but I don't recall any videos about the theory I want to discuss with you today. There is one thing that I always found very interesting, and some of you might not actually know this, but the entire story was essentially inspired by that scene in the Fall of the Direwolves. Before George R.R. Martin had ever written the first book, Game of Thrones, this was the very first scene that actually said.
This creation began back in 1991, and I know it's a while ago, but I'm hoping you can remember for us the scene or the image that launched the series on Red Fire.
It was the first chapter but it was the chapter where they ran right up to see the headed, and then they find the direwolf.
As you can see, this is a moment in the story that has been pretty young here for the only story. Same collecting and creating one of the great stories of our time. This is also a very significant moment because this actually foreshadows a number of different events that would happen much later in the story. The Ned Stag and Direwolf was a perfect representation of what would eventually happen to House Baratheon and House Stark. And most importantly, these pups will later go on to save the Stark children on a number of different occasions. Most people would even say that the names of each direwolf foreshadows the fate of each of the Stark children, so it's quite clear that this scene was very significant to the overall story. Now, this obviously makes most of us wonder, did the Starks find these direwolves by accident, or were the Starks meant to have them, like Jon Snow said to Ned Stark? There were 5 books, one for each of the Stark children. The direwolf is a symptom of your house. They're meant to help you. At this point, many people believe they were gifted from the old gods of the north. Some people think Bloodraven and the children of the forest and the Starks are direwolves, but there are other people that believe it could have even been Bran Stark that played a part in this. In my opinion, I would be willing to accept either one of those theories because both of them make a lot of sense for many different reasons. But as I said before, today I want to focus on how Jon Snow actually found Ghost. I don't necessarily want to focus on how a direwolf made it south of the wall. I want to focus on what actually made Jon Snow go back and look a second time, because that was what on finding Ghost. I'm sure all of you remember the scene from the TV show, but I know some of you haven't been able to read the book yet. I think some of you may find this evidence very interesting because I know I do. The theory I want to propose today is Bran Stark from the future assisted Jon Snow in finding Ghost. Let me repeat that. Bran Stark from the future assisted Jon Snow in finding Ghost. Now, does that sound crazy? Well, let me explain. What I want to do first is show you a couple different quotes that help explain why the Starks were able to find them in the late summer snows. I think by this point, almost everyone believes someone connected to the old gods played a very big part in making sure the Starks found these pups that day. But if you haven't read the books, then you might not know this. In order to believe this, the first thing I would need to do is establish how it would be possible for someone to lead a direwolf to that location without transporting it there physically. Can someone actually do this? The answer to that question is yes. Not only is this proven time and time again in the books, but they started to show us this at the very beginning of the show. We know that the three-eyed raven, or blood raven, can control different animals. We have seen him do this at different times. We also know that Brainstorm can do this as well. We have even seen the Game Monkey take control of many different animals too. So, now that we know it is possible for someone to enter the mind of a pregnant direwolf and take it out to the wall, we need to figure out who would like to. Let's take a look